Did you know in addition to forking around and finding out, you can also fork around and buy stuff? We have a merch store. Go to FAFO.FM/store. We have a few items there, nothing really big, we're not trying to make money from it. We just wanted to give people some shirts and hoodies that we thought are cool, and sometimes some Easter eggs to things we reference on the show. So if you feel like supporting the podcast and getting some good clothes out of it, head over to FAFO.FM/store. Welcome to Fork Around and Find Out, the podcast about building, running, and maintaining software and systems. Hello and welcome back to Fork Around and Find Out. I am your host, Justin Garrison, and with me today is Autumn Nash, as always. How's it going, Autumn?
Surviving? I don't know.
Silence. I know. There's a lot going on. Your daily your monthly distraction from all the other bad news. Let's talk about outages in software.
It seems so much better right now. The world's just a lot, okay?
Joining us on the podcast today, we have Ellie Ford, staff software engineer at DevZero. Thanks for coming on, Ellie.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me on.
I absolutely invited you on because your Blue Sky feed was for a time phenomenal for giving me continued insights into what's going on in data centers and hardware, because I really kind of miss it. Like there's a lot of things that were just like, if you stay away from it for one or two cycles, like it's gone. Like you don't know anything that's going on anymore. You go to the cloud for 4 or 5 years and you're like, well, this must be state of the art, right? I'm like, no, like this is the amount of performance and price per watt and everything else you can get by just buying some hardware is really changed over time.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that has been the most interesting is watching like the Blue Sky, the company behind Blue Sky, like build their own infra and build it for kind of, a tremendous scale. They are one of the biggest proponents of like hosting it your own, because they too have realized and done the math, and they're like, to run this on AWS and with all of the egress pricing and all of like all of the miscellaneous Bezos tax that you pay for, like it is so tremendously cheap to actually just go out and buy hardware and depreciate it over like 7 years and just like stick it in a colo, right? It doesn't matter if you have like remote hands and like you have to pay for like people to staff it. It is so tremendously cheaper, and you get more performance and you get more control. And kind of at the, you trade that off with like, you have to do more capacity planning. You have to think more through like, okay, we can only handle so much load on this hardware, but then you kind of get into things like performance tuning and things like that, which are so much fun.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of people should budget there, like plan some capacity and just make a budget and say, I'm not going over this. And that's like the cloud in general with infinite scaling credit card bills is more along the lines of not infinite scaling infrastructure, but you can spend as much money as you want on anything and never have a plan for it.
So we've been doing a lot of Kubernetes optimization work at my work lately. And there was a study by Datadog, I think, that showed that 80% of containerized workloads are over provisioned, right? So like, and it has been crazy, like doing metrics and doing like a detailed, rigorous analysis of like how much waste is actually happening inside of Kubernetes environments, and it's insane. And you're paying for all of that too.
Is that new though? Right?
Not really.
Like we used to buy servers and they'd sit there, 10% utilization maybe, and then we'd like, oh, we need to utilize this more. Let's use VMs. And then we had a bunch of VMs that were 10% utilized, and then we put it in containers, and those are all, in every case, I feel like we're just like try to densely pack these things more and more. And at some point you hide it, right? Where like VMware had memory sharing, right? You're like, I got 20 VMs on this, but I'm only using the RAM from one of them because it's all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Is the waste a bad thing though? Like,
I mean, so my background is a SRE, right? So I typically look at waste as capacity rather than actual waste, which it very much flies contrary with like what the bean counters like to think and everything like that. Especially once you're talking about, like reducing tail latency, and like meeting strict SLAs, it is so much harder to do that when you are on a system that is like fully loaded.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's been really interesting is like the Linux kernel isn't really well designed to handle large amounts of load, right? You think of things like the out of memory killer. The out of memory killer wants to preserve kernel functionality rather than user space functionality. So you will have the out of memory.
I have a 4x4 that says OOM on it for it's my prop for out of memory killers.
Yeah, it's just so funny. Like you will have to go out and you will like to make any system functional. Like Facebook has found this out the hard way. You have to have an early own daemon that kills processes before it even starts to trigger the kernel out of memory Reaper, because it will just like lock up that whole system and you'll have to power cycle it. Right?
Yeah, the work Facebook and Meta has been doing on a user space killer is fascinating to me, because it just shows that even though the kernel has all the power, it doesn't have all the context and information for like what's actually important. And we try to do that on the operating system I work on, where it's like, how do we protect the things that we want to protect? It's like, we can't just do it in kernel. Like we have to have something that knows what's actually going on.
Yeah, like you have like niceness values, which are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But if you've ever looked on like any regular Linux system, you'll see that like some processes are set as -20, which are like never kill.
Yeah.
And then others are like 0. And like no one actually uses these kernel tunables. So you quite often get stuck in this situation where you just run into out of memory and you can't do anything about it. Right.
So what sort of performance tuning have you been doing on Kubernetes? You're just trying to eliminate the over provisioning, or is it a latency, or what is it?
Not necessarily latency. So before we started doing the cost optimization work, startups, we pivot all the time. We used to do cloud development environments before that. And a lot of the people at DevZero have really, like, they have worked on developer environments at Uber. We have people from Facebook. We had people from Carta. A lot of people who have done these developer environments. And one of the things that we were trying to do is like trying to make it snappy and responsive and actually functional, right? We wanted to do everything that an EC2 virtual machine could do, but then better and on your own infrastructure, which is not particularly easy. And it was in kind of like a different vein from like what Coder and everything does. Because Coder, like, to their credit, it's more or less just a Terraform wrapper. It just provisions that environment for you and then does some like initial setup. We were a lot more controlled. I introduced micro VMs into the mix, which made things chaotic and so fun. I had to debug multiple hypervisor bugs. It was so gory. And developers, we were trying to also solve like for developer efficiency at the same time and responsiveness and everything like that, which basically meant that like we took a Ubuntu distribution, we pinned the kernel at a specific version, we made our own kernel config with our own options to like slim it down as much as possible to reduce startup time, and then we had a custom PID1 that would run before anything else in the container that would copy all of the contents over to a persistent block device.
Sure.
It was batshit crazy.
I think that's kind of the struggle, though. People want to create Linux distributions that have the least amount of what you need, to do it, because for one, it makes it more secure. Two, it makes it faster. But trying to figure out exactly what you need to be usable is the hard part, balancing that and actually being usable.
No, absolutely. It is so much back and forth. It is tuning. It is trial and error. It is like trying 15 different kernel configs to find out which one works, which one doesn't. It is an egregious amount of time, and I have so much newfound respect for people who maintain distributions after that, because I was like, you could probably spend the rest of your life just tuning the Linux kernel.
And not just that, but like Linux users are very specific about what they want. You know what I mean? Like it's its own religion. Like
You're calling me out? What is this?
Yes, I'm calling you out, sir. What do you mean?
I found a new fun Linux distro this week. Was it Rocknix?
Justin, every
it's
other
fun.
week, he's like, I found a new distro, and this is how I'm going to hurt my own feelings this week. Like, why are you like this? It's like you like pain or something.
Hey, for you and all our listeners, if you haven't compiled the Linux kernel the last couple of weeks, maybe you should. Maybe you should just try.
Do you see
just try it.
this?
See.
Like, he's like, Kali Linux isn't enough. I have to go weirder. Like,
It's okay. I used to run Gentoo in high school, so
just started out like
yeah,
choosing violence.
yeah, just choosing violence. Like I was sitting in like AP Human Geography, and I was compiling Firefox from source, and my like laptop would go to 100%, fans would kick on. It was a sight to behold.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you were doing the right thing because I was so bored in high school. At least she found something that was like fun to do. Like I was just sitting there doodling. I don't know. I think it's also hard too because there's no like, I think a lot of the other open source projects that everybody use have this like one united overall project, and they might kind of branch off, but Linux distributions are different. Like there are so many sources of truth, and there's so many different ways where people will pick the packages they want in their distribution. And a lot of open source, and the beauty of open source is maintaining things with a community, right? So you're not maintaining it by yourself, and kind of like having that continuity over the packages that are built, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to figure out what you want to continue to have is hard.
It's even like when you're building an end user application for a Linux system, it's like, what versions of glibc do you need to support? How do you want to package it? Do you want to use RPM? Do you want to use dev?
The word glibc, just like, I feel like I have PTSD this week. Good Lord. Like,
I have learned the correct way is to statically link everything to musl libc and ship people static binaries, because everyone will just figure it out if you give them a static binary that just works on their system.
But Linux distribution, like, okay, when Linux users are a special, like, you have to know your customer, right? Like when you're building anything, you have to know your customer. And like something about developers, especially Linux developers, are like, I want to have all, like, it's like people that like, there's people that use Macs in real life or some sort of like operating system in real life, but they're Linux developers, right? And then you've got the people who have to have Linux on everything, Justin. And then like, like, you know what I mean? Like they're different flavors of like, they want all the knobs, or I want it to be bare metal, like, and just do only what I want it to do and have nothing else. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, what is your distribution for? Is it for the people that want just pure security? Like, there's so many different levels, and you're building for like, who's your audience? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. And that's like that's why if I was to tell anyone any advice from building cloud development environments for like the past, like our company's been doing it for the past 3 years, right? If there's anything we've learned, it's like, don't do it. It's so bad. It's so awful.
it's kind of fun too, though.
It's kind of fun.
Like when you were talking earlier about how you like, and I put this like cloud VM, and I did this, and I was just like, it's because you like chaotic things. Like I think we all have a little bit of like, you just kind of like the fire a little bit, and then you have to figure out like how much your like risk tolerance is for, you know, like.
Yeah.
But another thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting is you mentioned colos, and I've talked to people at Blue Sky who do that, and it's just, I don't think people realize that that's the intermediate, right? Like you have cloud where you completely don't know what's going on, you have nothing to do with it. You've got colos where you buy all the hardware, you can depreciate it, you ship it, and it's cheaper, right? But you still have some kind of like, they're your VMs, but somebody else may be maintaining it. You might have to pay for hands, whatever. And then you have completely on-prem, you are running a data center. And I feel like we talk about on-prem, we talk about cloud, but nobody talks about colos and how, like, because we're talking about on-prem, like everyone's going back to on-prem. People are not going back to truly writing your own data centers. Don't lie. Like, you know what I mean? Like people keep writing these articles for spicy like takes, and I'm like, bullshit. Like that's not what we're doing right now. Like people are going to the middle option of like, not today, Satan. I don't want to go back to holding a pager myself, you know, like, but
And even
buying my own hardware is cheaper. So like, I love that you brought that up, because I feel like people are writing a lot of articles to be spicy, right? And like there is value in it being cheaper, But don't lie, nobody's doing that kind of work. And the fact that and that's the wild thing, because all of a sudden we now need DBAs. We need like people that run data centers, and not everybody has that talent. And most the people that do are these huge companies that do nothing but run people's colos, or the people that are have these big data centers.
I find that really fascinating, where the people that are making on-prem and data centers sound so cool are the cloud providers. Right? Like it's like literally Amazon's like, we're making the best, biggest, coolest data center ever existed, and everyone's like, I want one of those, right? And like, we'll just use ours. You can just pay for it.
But it's funny because it goes back to exactly what we're talking about Linux. It's the different levels of abstraction. How many knobs do you want to press? How many how much responsibility do you want here? It's like Mastodon versus Blue Sky. People were like, yeah, and we're gonna have our own stuff and we're gonna do it, and then we got halfway through, we're like, this is terrible. I don't want this much responsibility. I just want it to be fun. And then we were like, but we don't want to go back to the evil place and the bad place. So then they were like, okay, the middle. Blue Sky is the colos of social media, right? Like you've got we don't want to completely be responsible because we do that all day, and
except for those of us that run their own PDS.
Okay, Ellie, but did you remember earlier when I said that Justin chooses violence and he likes to be like, am I wrong?
Sadomasochism is a disease.
I'm telling you, you just gotta pick what level of pain that you're just excited about.
I have to know how it works, and I have to do it. So there's also this.
He made it where he couldn't even direct message me and talk to me on Blue Sky for like a month. Okay, and then I was just like, Justin, every time I try to at you, and he's like, no, it's fine. What are you talking about?
It was a feature.
It was not fine, Ellie. He didn't even figure it out for a month. Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, so whenever someone talks about on-prems, I show them the picture of the OVH data center fire. The big one that just lit on fire. Right? I'm like, you want to deal with that?
Not just that, but now people are like, I'm running a server in my grandma's basement. Please don't let your grandma's house on fire. Like, grandma did not ask. Are you helping grandma pay this electricity bill? Like, goodness.
And that is one of the things that I find super fascinating, especially about hardware, which I do want to talk about, is how much cheaper and quieter and low power these, especially like the home lab systems, like the N100 chips are like, they just trickle power and can run a bunch of stuff. It's just super fascinating.
What is that new company? We met Matthew works for them.
Oxide, yeah.
Oh my God, their servers are wild.
Yeah.
I have never geeked out about a server so hard. I'm usually like, ew, I don't want to touch those things. But that one, I was like, what? Like, I might buy one of these. And then the tests that they do, they'll go with their little mics, and you're just like.
I have been begging the Oxide people to give me a rack for free, and I will do horrendous, awful things to it.
I want to know how you break it. I want to know how you put it together. I want to you know what I mean? I'm just like, you can do what? Do you know how many hood rat things you could run on that? And just, so much fun.
We've been talking about the polycule Oxide rack. One of the understated things about polyamory is
I know 3 people that would be on this server oh, I can't wait till this episode goes live. I'm just gonna be like, I talked about you
at Charlotte.
I'm gonna be like, I love you so much. I'm always the friend that I told them I want a t-shirt, friend of the polycule. Polycule bestie.
Polycule adjacent.
I'm just you guys keep adding more people, and I just love everybody.
Yeah. So the thing is, hardware is getting more efficient, more powerful, but then at the same time, the AI craze is happening too, and that's I don't know if you've ever seen an A100 while it's running. I don't know if you've ever had to work with an A100 while it's running, but it is a passively cooled 400 watt card.
Oof.
So
that's a lot of electrons.
Yeah, that it gets real hot, real toasty, and that's kind of been one of the funny things about I've been working with NVIDIA hardware for the past year, God knows how long before that, in a data center capacity, and no one tells you NVIDIA cards, they get so hot. They get so hot so quick, even when they're idle, right?
Yeah.
I have had an A100 shut down on me because it was passively cooled and I didn't have any airflow going over it. And so there are like 3D printed brackets that you will have to get, and you will have to point a whole 120 millimeter fan just straight at the fins to cool it down, because otherwise it will shut down, right? So it's been funny, like CPUs are so efficient now, right? Especially once you look at like the ARM space, what Apple's doing with like their M4 chips now, I think they're on.
Yeah.
I got a new M4 laptop, and I swear to God, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever opened in my, like, the things that you can do on that laptop are just, should be like illegal. It's great.
When the first like M's, like when they were first talking about switching over to ARM, I was so skeptical.
Charcoal ones. Oh God,
they're so. When they were first talking about switching over to ARM, I was like so skeptical. I was like, no way in hell. They pulled it off. I'm sorry.
That chip, like, even working at a like language and runtime and seeing all the extra stuff you had to do for those M4 chips, worth it.
Yeah. I'm like, I swear to God, like, I run exclusively Macs at my home.
I had one laptop, right? It was a terabyte of RAM. It was like, oh, it's going to be my new gaming computer. And I would put one here, and then I had an M4 laptop. This fan's like kicking on. It's dying. Mm-hmm. You'd run all the same stuff on an M4, and it's like, oh, like it's you're just like, how? Like it's a year difference between these two computers. It's insane.
Yeah, like things are so efficient now.
Well, they have to be, because it's the only way we're going to be able to continue to this whole AI race, because there's no way they can continue to like use this much electricity and water. You know what I mean? So they're going to have to figure it out, and they want to put it on everything.
One of the things that nobody really talks about, it isn't really about the power. I mean, like, the power is obviously one of the big constraints, and like drawing from the grid that much power is a huge concern. And like what I think XAI is doing is they have gas turbines at their plant now, which is like spitting emissions into the air.
Polluting like a small underprivileged community that they just keep pretending like they're not in line. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the power is one thing, but no one talks about cooling, right? Like,
well, that's why some of them are using water, but it's crazy. Yeah. Like, did you see the study they did in Alaska? They were like, we'll just go to the cold, not Alaska, Antarctica. They're like, we'll build them there, and then we'll open the windows. And I was like, what are you doing to the environment by changing the temperatures? And then they were like, we'll build one underwater, and it's not like we're already killing fish or anything.
Meta's been doing the open the windows for a long time now, because they have the
well, they're trying to build them in colder places and then open the windows.
Well, right. So well, I think one of the things, like, they built these data centers in what used to be colder places that are now getting warmer, and they're like, hey, we need to move closer to the poles because it's colder there.
There's going to be a lot of money for the first person to make a colo at Antarctica, right?
They're already trying, but I'm just saying, like, it's really working out from my home value, because Washington's going to be California weather one day, while everything else is hot as balls. So it's going to be like great. Like,
now, question though: if they build a data center or a region at the South Pole, is that a west or an east delimited?
Can we name it Santa? Or like
that'd be North Pole.
Like, can that be like can North Pole be the, like, instead of like East 1, can it be like North Pole 1? Because like
Santa
with
Claus,
like a little like candy, like a candy cane like emoji
regions. That would be
like East, like West, like what is it? West.
Let's test all your Unicode.
West should be like a little like West should be like a little beach, you know, and like New York East 1 or 2 or whatever.
Right.
Like,
anyone listen to this? Send us a blue
what
sky
should the emojis be for each region?
For regions.
Dude, we're gonna have a West Coast, like East Coast wars of emojis.
It's gonna be great. I love it.
I don't know, but I mean, it's fascinating. Like, you mentioned water cooling, though, right? It's actually going further than water cooling. It's like full immersion, like mineral oil immersion cooling.
But they're talking about under the water.
Right, under the sea.
Yeah,
under the sea.
There was that. I think
when I was at
Facebook,
when I was at Disney, Pixar had a immersion data center, which was fascinating because you walk in there, it's just quiet because there's no fans. There's no, it's just like, what's going on? Like it's hot in there too because they run at a higher ambient temperature. So you're in the data center and it's like 85 Fahrenheit or something like that. And you're like, it is muggy in here right now. What is going on? It's like, but it was super cool because it was just like, yeah, we can run these, harder, longer, and we have less breakage on things. It wasn't all of their data centers, but it was super fascinating just seeing how that was playing out in like a real environment.
Yeah, I think in California, I think I remember reading some of the data centers are there because like they need to prioritize capacity so much, and you like the only way to get higher capacity inside of a data center like that is to go immersion, right? Yeah. And so I think like some of the data centers in San Jose, at least last time I was reading, are like fully immersion.
Is wild because it's come so far in like a couple of years because they want to be able to push the constraints, and it's amazing.
Do you remember when it was just hobbyists, like the fish tank PC on like Linus Tech Tips back in the day?
Do you remember? I remember going to PAX a couple of years ago, and people were walking in with their like PCs underwater, but it was to be cool. Like it wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like no, like you need it to like run half of the
and you see the bubbles coming off of the
Also the dedication to like drag a whole ass PC down to like Seattle, like props.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like it's very much a push and pull factor.
I think we're going to keep with that push and pull. It's always, it's like, oh, cloud, and then it's like data centers, and then like...
There's always a limit, right? Like, you find the next limit, and you work around it, or you...
Not even just the limit, though. It's whatever people want to worship that day. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of that,
just a religion. Like, and then you're just like, these are real tools that you could just kind of weigh your options, but then it's just like, what direction is the religion going on today? And people are going to find their version of social media to argue to the depths, even though there could be like a middle argument and there's like a good use case for both. But, keep going. Yeah. Because it wouldn't be fun if you weren't arguing.
No, yeah. And, like so many push and pull factors. I mean, like, because the internet is growing and continuing to grow, like, we are getting faster and faster networks, right? I think they are now testing like 1.6 terabit optics.
Which is wild. Do you remember how long it took to like download a movie back in the day? Do you remember being on like dial-up?
I think one of the things that we're trying to talk about is like the history of computing. Like back in 2013, 2014, like it was rare to see a 40 gigabit network even. Yeah. I think like at the high end, people would have 10 gig now, but like you can go talk to an ISP and get a dedicated 10 gig fiber line for about $1,000 a month right now. Yeah. I know because I just talked to like Zayo and Astound, they're a local ISP in the Seattle area, and it's like it is so cheap to get 10 gig now, and even on the hobbyist end, you can get 100 gig equipment for under $2,000, right? A used Mellanox switch will only run you about $1,500.
Don't tell me that.
No.
Poor Beth. She's just gonna have to put up with this now. She'd be like, Justin, what are you doing
sounds
in the
amazing.
garage?
I'll send you the eBay listing because we just built a lab off of like 100.
Ellie,
gig
don't
equipment.
help this.
I just bought used server hardware on eBay literally yesterday.
Have you seen his garage? Look behind him. He doesn't need any help.
So the secret is, and before the tariffs, it was like the Chinese are incredibly good at recycling data center equipment and turning it into hobbyist grade equipment. So you can get Bluefield 2s. They're insanely cool network cards. I can get into them a little bit more. They're 100 gig capable, actually 200 gig capable, and like you can get them for like $300 each, which is insane.
Are those the ones you were running? They have like you can run a full operating system on them?
Oh yeah. I ran a Blue Sky PDS on one of them.
Don't give it
on
a network card.
I remember you posted that, and I spent the entire night watching YouTube videos about these cards because I didn't know anything about all these different hacks that people were doing.
I'm not gonna be able to at him again for like another month. Yeah, he's gonna break it.
So that's funny. This has been a whole research article or like whole research point of research for me. There's a blog post about this at my work blog.
I was gonna say, if you're not on Blue Sky, are you talking about this somewhere else? Because like then we'll lose all the information. Like, come back to us and just just ignore everybody. Like, don't actually talk to people. Just post and then just turn it off.
Just post, leave, come back.
Just
drop
RSS.
the mic after.
It's like NVIDIA is doing some insanely cool stuff with these DPUs. The Bluefield 2 cards, I mean, $300 each. They have a full ARM V8 core on them, and they're like tied to a Connect X7 network adapter. And it's like, it's in a really weird way where that ARM chip has like full control over that network adapter and create like pseudo interfaces that show up on the host that are actually routed through that ARM core out to the public internet through the Ethernet port on the back, or technically it's an SFP port.
Do you think it's going to get to a point where we have so many of these fast chips that they will like just be everywhere? Because it seems like, you know what I mean? Like they just keep building them faster and faster, so people are going to want the new ones, and it's just like we're just going to end up with this crazy surplus of chips.
Well, not only just a crazy surplus, but just so many stacked on layers of like abstraction and complexity. I mean, I really don't envy someone who has to learn all of like the basics of PC hardware from scratch, and then now you're throwing on like DPUs. You're throwing on all of the extra complexity of like, oh, you know, how do you handle 100 gigabit line rates, right? Accelerator cards.
My little brother was learning how to build his own PC like 2 years ago, and he was trying to add more RAM and like get a new chip because he was running video games. And I remember like you couldn't find like the crappiest card anywhere. Like it was wild. And now I'm like, what are we gonna do when they've got like just at some point there's going to be too many chips because they keep making new ones, you know? So it's gonna be like, I wonder how that affects how we use it.
One of the things I was thinking of just this last week about hardware data centers is just that recycle factor of like companies handing out old hardware to employees that are interested, and the amount of things that I learned over the years by having free access to random compute things that I didn't know what to do with or not. Like I've taken my fair share of rack mount servers home, not knowing that I could if I could power or cool it. But it was still interesting to be able to say,
amazing that you didn't burn your house down on accident.
This was in a dorm room, right? Like this was.
Oh gosh.
So
Justin taking out the whole dorm.
Is someone burning popcorn? No, don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, like this is. I feel like a lot of people miss out on that, right? Because so many of these like college students and early career people are only working in cloud providers, and they don't actually get access to know how this stuff works at a lower level. Be able to freely break something and have constraints around like. It's not gonna accidentally charge me $10,000 if I, you know, like for loop this Lambda function, right? Like at some point,
there's
like,
different trade-offs though. Like a lot of times you get extra credits and you can experiment, but we just need to give people access to both. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, is there anything like the constraints of here's a box that runs something, like here's a DPU or even a GPU or an old desktop or something, like the amount of home labs I've built on old desktops is just because I was like, I always had free access to them. And it was fascinating how much I could learn within that constraints of like, oh, what can this do?
So it's funny that you mentioned this. This is kind of one of the things that I've always wanted to do. There's this project called Cloud Lab. It's run by, I think, like the University of Georgia or like maybe Clemson. Yeah. Clemson, the University of Utah participate, and they basically built this like software-defined data center where you can rent some of this hardware for like academic research use. And like, I just think like that's the type of thing that needs to be in the world more, right? You need to give like so many people who don't have access, who can't afford this hardware, because a lot of it is so expensive. Like you need to give them access. Otherwise, like, how do you expect anyone to really get knowledgeable in this
I was going to say, because like, I mean, I do think that having a box is great, but sometimes you may not have the room. You may not have one stable place to live. Like there's so many different, like I know people who were living in their car and using libraries like to do development work. So like, I think there's a place for everything, but I do think something that has no limits that you can break and fix is definitely different than the cloud.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like me personally, like I've moved so much. Right. I just finished up a move from North Carolina to Seattle, and I had to pack up all of the servers in my house that were just sitting there and ship them across the country, and a lot of them got broken along the way. And it's just it is such a privilege to have so much space and so much like all of that power available in order to be able to power this equipment. But there are a lot of people who don't, right? And I definitely do think that like there will always be a market in making these things accessible to more people.
Yes.
Because like there's just surpluses, right? Like because of the way that this hardware is depreciated and like the way that it's written off, like to a company, it's basically useless probably after like maybe 3 or 4 years, right?
And just the advances, they're going to get new.
Yeah. And it's been so cool because you will see like a lot of Chinese companies that are solely like built around recycled or like secondhand, enterprise hardware, which is like it's no longer in fashion and mainstream and like current data centers, but it's like still valuable, right? That's been like the fascinating thing to watch about DeepSeek, right? They basically, their principles are all correct. They're using the right stack. They're doing the right things. I am so bullish on DeepSeek. If anyone is getting to AGI, which, I don't know if that's even a possibility. I remain skeptical, but if anyone is going to do it, I definitely think it's going to be the Chinese. Right.
I think the fact that they were willing to put that completely open source.
Yeah. That's ballsy. That's
like saying, I know that we're really, really good because I'll let you have the code and seal.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like
that's how you disrupt markets anyway, right? Like you make the thing that someone else finds valuable and just run it to zero, right? Like that's why Kubernetes exists, because Google said we wanted everyone to rethink how to deploy applications, and we thought containers were better than VMs, and so we wanted to ruin Amazon's business, so Kubernetes exists.
I honestly think it's that, but I also think it's the Kubernetes community, because that's probably the coolest community I've ever.
Well, sure, yeah, like
the people. Yeah. I think that
they had to do things differently because they had other open source containerization things that existed.
Mesos.
But even Google had let me containerize that for you.
And they have like something else too.
There was Mesos. There was
Mesos and Nomad were the two that were around at the time. Kubernetes.
I really
and it's
think
funny too.
If people contributed so much, that is the most diverse. Like people with pink hair, people that are brown, trans, with just all the things, and I like you walk into a Kubernetes conference and I'm like, I want to run this stuff even if I don't need to use it because I want to hang out with all these people. Like
like people like Ian Coldwater are my role model.
Dude, like you actually like there's so many open source projects where they're just like old grouchy people and you're like, oh, I like your stuff, but like y'all like Kubernetes, you're like, oh, it's painful, but the people are rad.
It's kind of like the untold secret that trans people tend to make up a lot of the backbone of most distributed systems.
Which is why I think it's funny when they're like, oh, we don't care about them. And I'm like, yeah, wait till all your infrastructure like breaks. Like, don't call anybody.
Yeah,
they're not coming to help you.
It's like an unspoken fact that trans people and furries tend to make up most of this nation's critical infrastructure.
Dude, it's like when people are like, oh, we don't like immigration. I'm like, you should eat the most like unseasoned, like horrible food for the rest of your life. You're not allowed to have a taco, okay? Like nothing unless it's like I hope you eat the most bland food for the rest of your life and also no infrastructure for you. Like
So I grew up half Japanese in Salt Lake City, Utah. So
girl.
So Mormon too. Should mention Mormon, right? So I was
an assumption made if you're in Salt Lake City that.
But you have to clarify assumptions.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, I was Mormon. It is shocking. And then I moved to North Carolina right after that, and I was like, wow, food can taste good.
It's like the like I don't know, it's like the great I don't know, like it gets like it's like the universe's way of being like, you don't deserve good food.
The equalizing factor,
like I grew up a
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, all my friends who came from very, 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 very religious backgrounds are all like so much fun. And I was like, you could tell we didn't get to do anything when we were little.
Yeah, but it's funny that you mentioned Kubernetes too, because if you really start looking at the background on like who's pushing a lot of the needle forward on a lot of this Kubernetes research too, it isn't really the big cloud providers. It isn't really like the giants in the US. A lot of the stuff that I've been looking at, it like Overlay BD, um, it's a fascinating project. If you have not looked into Overlay BD, they basically made like a block device which remotely streams in its content from a Docker registry. Like that's I think a Tencent project, right?
GCP has that, right? GCP has a way to stream
Yeah,
in from the
yeah, yeah.
block.
Like A star GZ.
Yeah.
It's I like there. I think one of the main maintainers behind Container D is also like he's Japanese, Akihara Osuda, right? Is his handle, I think. Like there are people across the ocean who are kind of leading the way on a lot of this Kubernetes research, and it's kind of fascinating.
If you look at it all, like just all the way, that's why like I'm just like when people say that like diversity work is like some sort of like you're doing it to be nice and help people, I'm like, have you ever heard of the bottom line in building things? Like, because like this is not charity
Yeah.
work out here. Like you are not doing anything for people. Like to get the best people that are like really into whatever they're building and they're just doing it, you have to go everywhere and
Hmm.
allow everyone there. You literally get better products and
Yeah.
more of a return on investment.
Some of the smartest people I've ever worked with were high school dropouts. And
Dude,
that's like a
Absolutely.
bizarre fact for me. I'm a college dropout myself, right? I didn't get to finish
some of the
college.
best people, college dropouts, theater degrees,
Yeah.
absolutely no real computer science. Like, dude, and it makes me sad because I've ran into so many times where people are like, "You don't have a real computer science degree," or like, and I think that we've got this elitist vocab, that
Mhm.
if you don't sound exactly the same as other people, that people think that you like, or if you didn't go to a fancy school. And I'm like, some of the best technologists I know have invented half of these vocab words and like don't have that degree. Like that's ridiculous. Like
Yeah. I think that's been one of the most interesting factors. Like it- because of like open source technologies, it is so like it is so easy for people from underserved communities to like break into tech by just contributing to open source projects. That's how I got my break,
it
right?
also helps you to be able to play with technology because it's
Yeah.
all there in the open and there's usually good documentation or documentation people have walked through.
Yeah, it's like I really admire Tailscale. I really admire Oxide, how they all have their core basically open in public for people to look at,
A
right?
lot of
And
people don't have the ability to do internships. Internships are especially like unpaid ones, that's for
Mhm.
rich kids. Like not everybody can
Yeah.
move to Seattle or New York or Silicon Valley. And how are
Mhm.
you supposed to pay that extra high rent for 3 months, even if you
Yeah.
are making some, like, you know what I mean? Like, people don't realize how much of the traditional process of getting into tech is gatekept by like your social economic class about where
Mhm.
you're able to get like your education. Like, there's so much of it. And I think open source is the great equalizer and 70% of infrastructure comes from open source.
Mhm.
And that's the
Yeah.
other thing I was saying with like the trickle down of free hardware, right? Like, cause that ends up going far and wide just beyond the person that gets it. Like the amount of computers that I've got from companies and then also given away to other people that I'm like, oh, you should get into this. I play hockey with someone and they work a service job and they seem really kind of apt to technology. And I'm like, hey, I have a spare laptop. Do you want it to, we can do some programming classes? And they're like, I've never had a laptop before. And I'm like, well,
I
here,
always give
like,
my laptops away because I was
yeah.
definitely the kid that didn't have one.
Yeah, and it totally has a second order effect of like if you have more time than ability at some point, you're like, just give me access to something and I will bang my head against the desk until I figure something out. And for systems work, for programming, for all sorts of things, we can't replace the desire to learn with more training.
Mhm.
Right? Like the
I
amount
think
of like
curiosity is
companies.
one thing you can't train.
Yeah, and like the amount, like, oh, we're just going to train up a new group of people to do this thing. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, if they're not interested, they're not going to learn it. You just
Not
can't.
just that, but the rabbit hole and the research that you will go and you will learn when you are just like want to solve a problem. Like, that's why the best projects come from like somebody wanting to solve an issue that they had.
Or prove someone wrong.
Oh,
Spite-driven development.
Oh my god, my life is spite-driven development. I swear to God, like, oh my goodness.
No, so like this has kind of been one of the most frustrating things about watching modern computer science education. Like I am of
And
college
the
age.
interviewing. Don't forget the interviewing.
The interviewing process is frustrating, but like watching people who are so reliant on ChatGPT and like don't want to learn anything, it's so frustrating because
I'm really scared for future developers. Like I think we're going to make people like dumber, but I think that AI could be useful in certain ways, but I just it's so weird to me that they're shopping it as the black box of answers instead of this new way to learn. Like I it's so weird to me that that would be so like, also just the way that the fact that you can have AI do process on Apple phones and everything is processed in chip. That's freaking amazing. You know what I mean? Like there's so many cool ways that we could use this to help people, and let's make them dumber. It's a really weird flex.
Like I have such a nuanced opinion about AI because on the one hand, I think it's so cool. Like this is the next frontier of natural language processing. Like you can talk to a computer in like literal just plain text. This is
it
what
can
we've
be
been
your
dreaming
rubber
of.
ducky. It can help you like. When you're a neurospacey person and you're trying to figure out how to interact with the world, you'd be like, does this sound dumb? How do I rewrite this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, here's all my neurospacey ideas that I'm too excited to make into words. Can you help me make it into word? Like, you know, like a structured, like, paragraph from my bullet list of ideas. Like,
yeah. But like at the same time, like I spent so much time around my friends who are still in college who are just graduating, and like ChatGPT has completely changed how they
kids
go
don't know how
about
to write paragraphs anymore.
they don't actually try. They just feed everything into ChatGPT, use the output, turn it in, maybe change some words here and there so to like avoid the AI plagiarism.
Delete all the M dashes.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I feel like we did. Remember when they told people that you can't use an IDE, you have to use Vim, and then they were like, "Oh well, like you can't copy and paste. You got to make your projects from like." People have been doing this shit for forever, right? But like, I think this is just like, it gives you such a finished product that's so tailored to what you want. Before you could go copy some code, but you had to make it, you had to change it enough to do what you want it to, you know?
Yeah. The one radicalizing thing about learning about higher institutions and how education is actually conducted there is it isn't like, not only is the curriculum more advanced, the cheating is more advanced, right? They get so creative on cheating. There are whole cheating rings formed and like disbanded on a daily basis. There are Discord servers created.
Okay, though, every now and then I want to give them a little award, like that dude who did the Trojan horse, and and he like bullied the maintainer into making him a maintainer. Like, should you do that? No. Was it creative? You get an A+ for creativity, and I want to teach this in a computer science cyber class. But that was mean.
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's, you know, that is one of the things that I think we don't do a good job of making people curious, and that's one of the things.
But
that
in a
really
way that
worry
is
about AI.
curiosity and problem solving,
That's
but
true,
they're
that's
using it
true.
for bad. It's like when you have kids, okay? My kids use their intelligence to do little evil things, and I'm like, you could have done this the right way, and it would have took less brain
I
power.
wonder where they did it.
You know,
I might have been talking crap about you earlier, but that was so rude. Oh, when you work with people that are your friends and they know you for real, it's so hard. Also, my kids worship him. I know. I was like, damn. And he's not wrong, so I don't even have a rebuttal. To the heart. Oh.
Ellie, what do you think is interesting in hardware in the next 5 years? I mean, it's like all these accelerators right now are like everyone. I feel like everyone's just like throwing more electrons at AI right now, but it's not super interesting to me.
Yeah, I think one of the most fascinating things is like people are now kind of revisiting the basics when it comes
Mm.
to data center technology. Bye, Autumn. It and like there's so much talk now about disaggregation, right? Because now you have GPUs which are basically their own whole, like they consume the whole unit. They are basically the majority of the power unit of a lot of these rack
Yeah.
units. There's a lot more talk about making them into their own standalone rack units and connecting over CXL. That's the standard that's coming out, I think, and it's going GA this year. And people, putting in more memory than what like these servers are physically capable of, like dynamically allocating and swapping around memory between servers without ever turning them off. There's so much cool research there. I had a call with both Memverge and Liquid. Those are two startups that are very hot and playing in the disaggregation space, and it is insane what's going on there. It is.
How so?
So what they're able to do is they basically realized, okay, PCIe is a switched interconnect, right? It is if you squint, it's like a network protocol, right? And so they basically made it so they
Okay.
break out the PCIe slot
Yeah.
from inside of the computer into a copper like interconnect that can go 15 meters, 10 to 15 meters. And so you're able to have these individual thin racks, thin rack units, and then you're able to have all of these copper interconnects into like a GPU box where you have like 8 GPUs all in like a 4U enclosure, and that's all it is, right? There's power. There's a power distribution system that's more equipped to handle all of that load for those GPUs, or like even you could do it from like another rack unit over, right? That's been one of the fascinating things.
When I see like that and NVMe over Fabric and these things that are just like, let's just put everything as a network protocol and connect it over more generic cabling, right? Is basically what we're doing. And then when I envision it, like initially I think that like an entire rack is basically going to look like what a desktop PC looks like today. Like if I open my desktop PC, I got the CPU on this side, I got the storage over here, I got the GPU down here, whatever else. And like, we're just doing that at the rack scale to say, oh, it's fast enough to connect these things together with the network or some fabric connectivity. It's close enough. So now we can just like, I always envision like pulling off the side of a rack, like a big door, and it's like a big PC where I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to change the CPU cooler here or something like that. But that seems like where we're going, where we want these specific units that do one thing. And we say, oh, we need to swap the, compute Bay 2 or something, right? We gotta like pull it out, hot swap a CPU out. Okay, we fix that, put it back in. It's back into.
Yeah, that's where we're going. I like that saying, it's turtles all the way down. It's computers all the way down, right?
Yeah, but yeah, and that's the thing I have a question about is at that point, every one of those components has an ARM chip attached to it or something that is its operating system. What is the operating system for the rack? Right. And I don't think Kubernetes is the right abstraction for that.
Yeah. I think like there has been some thought there. I think OpenStack was a very interesting player in that space. I would probably say they were the closest to getting it right, but it was just too complicated. I been looking at other projects, Open Nebula, they're it's like no one has really figured that out, right? I think the enterprise is kind of standardizing around Kubernetes as is right now, but it'll kind of be very interesting to see what comes out of this.
Because I don't think Kubernetes provides the lower level abstractions that people want to manage that hardware, especially if it's a per NIC operating system, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's actually funny that you mentioned this. One of my research topics at work has been the Doka platform. Basically, NVIDIA built a bunch of CRDs, custom resource definitions, on top of the Kubernetes API to like declaratively manage the DPU networking cards that we were talking about earlier. And it's so weird. It's like, yeah, you could do this, but should you?
Yeah.
The answer for me was kind of like no, this like and like the way that they want you to set it up and like the way that you want to maintain it, it's like you're running 3 Kubernetes clusters at the same time there, which is insane.
Yeah.
Right. And there are like projects like Kamaji, which is what I use to manage those 3 Kubernetes clusters, which is so cool because it lets you declaratively create Kubernetes clusters inside of Kubernetes clusters, which is batshit insane. But it's like, this doesn't feel like what we should be doing with Kubernetes because it wasn't really designed for this. It like CRDs were really meant to be kind of if you need something more than just a deployment or replica set, something like
It
that.
still should be at the application layer, right? It still should. If I think of the like OSI model, right, that's still at the top of the like CRDs are not down here in like the physical sort of like TCP area. This is like no, there needs to be something else that's managing everything below that, and to some degree, that's just the operating system has traditionally done that. I don't know that general purpose operating systems are the right thing for that either, right? That's where we just start getting into like what is firmware. It's like, well, it's like a little operating system that does one thing basically.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you could probably cobble together like all of the individual parts and individual software to like make like a whole rack scale, computer software, but it's just like I spent so much time trying to get even like NetBlocks working correctly, and it's just it's a headache. Like no one has really thought of it that way as like a rack scale computer. I think the closest people would probably be Oxide, honestly, because if there was anyone that was going to figure it out, I would probably assume it's them, just because they're building out all of the key building blocks in the way that you would expect, right?
Well, I think they're doing it in such a different way, right? Like they're just saying like, you know what, we don't need a BIOS. Like it just doesn't exist. Like we're not building that kind of machine. We know everything about this hardware and how to initialize it when we plug it in. So we don't need that general purpose BIOS UEFI stuff. And it's just more complicated than it's worth to have that interface in the system. So we'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
And the more of those layers we can remove, the better in a lot of these cases where it's just like, actually, what is valuable in this stack?
Yeah, well, I mean, disaggregation is cool, right? It is so cool. It is so wild. But at the same time, like there are limitations due to the speed of light a lot of times, right? There is an unavoidable amount of latency involved in like converting optical signals to electricity, like to copper signals.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like it's going to be really fascinating to see all of this operationalized and see like maybe like 10, 15 years from now, like were we correct about disaggregation? Right? Were we not correct? And like the answer is kind of like you have to try and find out. Right.
Yeah.
But like from an SRE standpoint, disaggregation, it makes everything a black box. It means you can't trust your storage devices. You can't trust your network. And one of the first things you learn about distributed systems is that the network is not reliable. Right. Like there is a reason why TCP is basically the de facto norm, and it is because packets are dropped pretty frequently. Right.
And I mean, if like it has been a long time since I haven't trusted a front side bus. Like between the CPU and a PCI, like that has always worked for me, or most of my life that has worked, and I've never had to think about maybe I need to debug this layer. But when you go to a distributed system or disaggregation, you're like everything is network, and now I don't trust any of those buses.
Yes. Yeah, it is going to be so wild to see like all of this productionized like what does the SRE do 10, 15 years from now? Like, are we teaching people how to like attach an oscilloscope and like see the actual signal coming over the wire, like trace it? Like, it kind of seems like where we're headed because, one of the things that I really pride myself on is like reverse engineering and knowing every single stack and every single layer of like involved in like an OS call or a syscall or something like that. But then once you like throw disaggregation in the mix now, like you can't even trust like an mmap, right? and Nmaps can fail. And then what does that do to like software, right? Like it's funny because like all of our hardware is advancing at such a fast pace, but it doesn't feel like the software is keeping up. And that has kind of been the like killer sorry, what's like the term here? It's like nail in the coffin for a lot of things. Like you think of Itanium, you think of Xeon Phi, I think. Like Intel's experiments to try and make really cool hardware, right? The software just never kept up for either Itanium or Xeon Phi, which led to both of them failing, right? And so, that's kind of going to be really interesting to see with Memverge and Liquid, because they're both betting on Kubernetes as being kind of like the management plane for these things.
Interesting.
So, like, in some ways, like Kubernetes is not the right fit for any of these, but it is what the enterprise is kind of standardizing on, because the alternative is like proprietary vendor locked software.
Yep.
Like ESXi. Everyone was running on ESXi for a while until Broadcom bought VMware and then was like, hey, we're going to screw up all of your licensing, by the way.
You mentioned provisioning there for a minute, and I'm kind of curious. It's always been like this passion of mine throughout my entire career of just like, I love pixie booting things. I love provisioning automated. Like I can install an operating system. Do you know state of the art like for provisioning systems these days? Like when I did it, like I literally was like Cobbler back in the day and Satellite Foreman, doing that sort of like Red Hat stack for quite a while. And then I was like switching over to like when I did Core OS, like their whole like install script was it was just a bash script that just like DD'd an image to disk. And I was like, that's fascinating. That's all you need. I was like, yeah, that's it. And now I've moved away from a lot of that stuff. And I'm kind of curious, NetBox, that's what you mentioned.
Well, so NetBox is just like the network source of truth. It
right. Yeah, that's just the not IMDb, the CMDB, right? It's the database of like what's there in the network.
So Nix is really interesting. But so far I haven't found a single person who's gotten Nix to work as like that sort of like provisioning,
Nix as the OS or
Nix OS, okay, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single person who has managed to make Nix work. I think the state of the art there is still like Puppet, Chef, Ansible. I genuinely don't think that we've evolved beyond Puppet or Chef. I mean, if you go to like the big hyperscalers, they totally have a replacement for Puppet and Chef and everything like that, and they definitely have like integrated solutions for all of these things. But I think the people that I know who have made advancements here are like Packet before they got bought out by Equinix and turned into Equinix Metal.
And now getting shut down. Yeah.
Like there hasn't been a lot of like, and this is something that OpenStack was actually trying to do as well, right?
Ironic.
Yeah. It's like it was just a couple of years too ahead of its time, and maybe now if someone tried to do OpenStack again, we'd be like, okay, and that's going to be really interesting to see. Also from like, what was it, Sidero too, right? Like how is that Talos Linux stuff going to work?
Yeah, and it's been interesting on like both sides of how things get provisioned, because I look at people that went to the cloud just ignored the whole how do I provision things, and it's just like boot the generic Ubuntu and cloud init the whole thing, right? And like cloud init is the config management system, which is just such a slow, difficult path to like actually make something work. And then coming from like data centers where they're like, oh, we're running Puppet Agent or Chef or something that's is a lot more powerful than cloud inits, but also can quickly become more complex and harder to maintain.
Yes.
And I keep telling friends at work, like people at work, I'm like, I'm so spoiled by Talos now, because like I don't worry about either of those things, where it's like I call an API and my OS gets installed, and that's weird. I had to do I told you before we started recording, I'm doing performance testing on a bunch of different platforms and operating systems, and like I have a KVM and I'm mounting like 2 gig Ubuntu ISOs to it to like install Ubuntu. I'm like, this is so painful. Like, I can't believe, it's no wonder that people wanted to get away from this, because my Talos Linux is like 80 megs and it just like one API. I was okay, it's installed, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, oh, it's still booting. Like Ubuntu's still kind of going through that. Like, I can't believe that nothing has changed that ecosystem in drastic ways. I'm using things like Silverblue, Bluefin for my desktop, which is, imaged base sort of installs. It's still large because it's still a general purpose sort of Fedora installation, but the maintenance side of it has improved. And so there's all these like weird areas where we're kind of making changes in some places, and not a lot of people are rethinking the possibilities.
Yeah, no. So many of these like second order cloud providers, they're still using Cloud Init, right? It is basically libvirt with Cloud Init, and they are using like the CD data store. That is it. And like you look at the cloud providers, they're doing things like MMDS, right? With the EC2 instances where you can call, I think 196.254.196.254, and it's like this API where you get all sorts of metadata about your
169,
instance time. Like things like that are probably the future and where we need to move towards. And I just think like no one has really tackled that space, and it's understandable why, but it's like at the same time, like I have a feeling like someone could do this better with like Nix or like Talos or something like that. It's just I just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time for this podcast. This has been a lot of fun. If no one has seen it, I'm going to put it in the show notes. Ellie.fm, your website, is something that everyone needs to go to at least once to experience. I'm not going to throw out any spoilers yet. Just click the link. I hope that's not mobile friendly, because
it's not.
Great. This is great. Yeah.
Not optimized for mobile whatsoever.
if there's not horizontal scrolling, I don't want it. So I know you're, I don't know if people can reach out to you somewhere, or at least where you could see where people are talking about, all the things they learned on this episode.
I lurk. I will see the discussions. Maybe I'll pop in on whatever new Blue Sky account I have at the time.
Sounds great. And I look forward to learning more about DPUs and going down rabbit holes of YouTube videos of I didn't know that was possible from you in the future.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
And everyone, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Fork Around and Find Out. If you like this show, please consider sharing it with a friend, a coworker, a family member, or even an enemy. However we get the word out about this show helps it to become sustainable for the long term. If you want to sponsor this show, please go to FAFO.FM/sponsor and reach out to us there about what you're interested in sponsoring and how we can help. We hope your systems stay available and your pagers stay quiet. We'll see you again next time. Let's be honest, not all podcasts are created equal. Some podcasts are just boring, especially tech podcasts where the hosts have no insights or credibility around the software they're talking about. But let me tell you about Software Defined Talk. In this show, Brandon, Matt, and Kote talk about DevOps, cloud, and Kubernetes, things that you're interested in because you're listening to this show, but they take a different spin on those topics. In most cases, they're going to talk a little bit about the tech and a lot about how it affects a business or a community or the broader industry around a technology. So you're not just hearing about it from a developer who used a tool once in production. Software Defined Talk gives you more insights that are probably adjacent to what you're used to. I'm a longtime listener of the show, and one of my favorite things is the recommendations. Every week they give you something that they recommend, whether they learned something, they read something, or anything about technology or not technology that I've always found fascinating. Even when I don't have time to listen to the show every week, I will still often go to the website just to see what they recommended. So check it out at softwaredefinedtalk.com.